Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching the Technique of the Month from Digital Photo Magazine. This month I'm going to show you how to make a really great looking silhouette picture, but we're going to use pictures that didn't start out as silhouettes, and we're going to use PaintShop Pro to do the work. Now what we've got here is the ideal candidate picture because it's got a really strong graphic shape. Now the plan is that we're going to select the statue and fill it with black to create a silhouette. But it may sound easy enough to select the statue, but in fact it's quite tricky. There's a lot of different tones and textures running through it, so selecting it isn't that simple. To be honest, it's far easier to select the sky. So that's what we're going to do. Let's select the sky. I'm going to change tools and I'm going to use the Magic Wand tool, which is just hidden underneath the other selection tools. The Magic Wand tool is the ideal tool for this job because what it does is when you click on a part of sky, like that, it'll go around and find the similar coloured bits of sky and select them all. But it doesn't select the whole sky. What you need to do is just hold the Shift key on the keyboard and a little plus appears next to your magic wand. Now that's saying from now on you'll be adding to the selection. So keep your finger on the Shift key and keep clicking around on the image just to make sure that it all becomes selected. Okay, let's just keep working down the side here and make sure it's all selected. Great, okay, so that's selected all of the sky. Well, it's actually not selected all of the sky, it's selected the sky around the statue. So we need to add in the little fiddly bits between his arm and leg there, so we'll hold the Shift and click those. And in between his legs there, so we'll hold Shift and click those bits as well. Make sure those are all added in nicely. But there's more small parts you need to look out for as well. If I zoom in nice and close over the rifle, you'll see that there's a bit between the rifle and the strap. So again, we'll hold the Shift key and we'll click and add those into the selection. But we're not done yet. There's even smaller parts, for example, inside of the trigger area there. So again, we'll get the Magic Wand tool, hold the Shift key and click that. Now there are even smaller parts, and in fact there is one bit that I know right there between his arm and his body. So if we hold the Shift key on the Magic Wand, we can add that in as well. Now that should be all of the small parts selected as well as the main parts of the image. So the neater you can get your selections, the better your silhouette is going to look. But at the moment we've selected the sky, and what I wanted was to select the statue. Not a problem, we can sort that out by going to Selections and choosing Invert. So now the statue is selected. All we need to do is fill it with black. So let's check our materials palette, F6 on the keyboard, and we'll make sure that our foreground colour is set to black, which it isn't. Not a problem again, we can just click this little black and white square and that'll set the default black and white colours in your foreground and background colours. Okay, now we're going to get the Flood Fill tool and come up to the match mode setting because we need to change this away from the default value, which is RGB, and we're going to change it to none. Now what will happen now is when we click inside the selection, the whole thing will fill with a solid colour, in this case the black, because that was our foreground colour. Now we've got a silhouette, we're almost ready to cut this out and put it into a picture. I say almost because there's a couple of things we're going to do to improve the quality of our silhouette. What we're going to do is come up to Selections, choose Modify and Contract. Now we're going to contract our silhouette by just 1 pixel. Now the idea here is if you don't do this, you can run the risk of getting a white fringe around your silhouette, and that's not going to be looking good. We'll click OK. So by contracting it, we get rid of that colour fringing or light fringing around the edge. The other thing we're going to do is go to Selections, Modify and Feather, because we're going to soften our selection out, again just by 1 single pixel, and that'll help to remove any hard pixelated edges and just give a more soft natural look to the actual silhouette itself. Now we can come up to Edit and choose either Cut or Copy, it doesn't matter which. I prefer Cut because I can actually see that I've cut it out, I know I've done the job. And I can safely close this down, and when it says do you want to save the changes, say no, because you might want to use the same image for another picture later on. And we'll get our background. Now this is the background image we're going to use for the rest of the tutorial. Now I've done a little bit of work here just to prepare it, and I'm ready to paste in. So let's go to Edit and choose Paste As New Layer. It's important to paste this as a layer, so we put it into the document. But you can see the silhouette comes out a little bit on the big side. In fact, we've managed to lose the head of our statue. So we want to resize this a little bit. So I'm going to swap tools to the pick tool. On the pick tool, you end up with these kind of bounding boxes with handles at each corner, but we can't actually see the corners because it's off the top and the bottom of the image. So we're just going to move this down until we can find one of those corners and just drag a corner handle down to shrink our picture. And I can drag him over here because I think I'd like him over here on the right hand side. Maybe a bit too small now, perhaps a little bit larger would be better. And we'll just pop him over there. Lovely. Okay, so that's looking reasonably good. One of these things you can just fiddle around with a little bit, but yeah, I'm happy with that now. That's fine. I'd like to put in something for him to stand on, because at the moment he's standing on the sea. That's not quite right. So we're going to add in another image. I've got this picture of cliffs, and we're going to take the picture of cliffs and make him stand on a silhouette of these cliffs. So once again, I want to select the cliffs, but they're quite complicated images to select, unlike the sky, which is nice and straightforward. So again, we're going to select the sky, hold the shift key, and keep adding it in with the magic wand tool until you've got the whole sky selected, just like that. But of course we want the cliffs and not the sky selected, so we'll go to selections, choose invert, and we'll get that flood fill tool and click in the selection to make it a black silhouette. Now, just like before, we're going to put a little bit of polish on the edge of our selection. So we'll go for selections, modify, and we'll use the same steps as last time. So we'll contract it by 1 pixel. Now, fortunately, PaintShop Pro remembers the last settings, so you don't have to put them in again. Just go back to selections, modify, and feather it by 1 pixel as well. Then back to edit and cut that new silhouette out and edit and paste it as a new layer. Now it's put it really high in the picture area. Now that's a little bit too high, so we're going to get the move tool and we're going to drag that down. Now be careful that you're dragging the silhouette and nothing else, because it's one of those tools that if you drag the wrong bit, it can have some unfortunate results, but that's absolutely fine. Right, only area left to do now is this top left corner where it's a bit blank and empty, and for that I've got some picture of some birds flying along. So we're going to add in some birds in flight just to fill up that corner. Same trick as before. Let's get the magic wand tool, click on the sky, and keep adding the sky into the picture until it's all selected. A little bit there. That's great. Then go to selections and invert, and we'll get the flood fill tool, and we can click on any of these selections, any of these birds, and they'll all become filled with black. Now it only works that way because we have the match mode set to none. If it was anything else, then you'd need to select one of these birds individually and work your way around, but that's one of the neat tricks of having the none match mode. Okay, back to selections, modify, you'll know the drill by now, contract by 1 pixel, selections, modify, feather by another pixel, and then edit and cut those birds out. Don't save the changes, but do paste them as a new layer. Now there we are, there's all of the elements of our picture on the main image, and it's at this point that you can start to just to move things around so you get it to look absolutely perfect. So let's swap tools back to the move tool. First of all, I'm going to move these birds to the top left corner. Now you need to be really accurate with your clicking here. Make sure you're clicked on one of the birds and drag them over to the side like so. Now if you're not happy with the position of your silhouette statue, click on that and that will move. So with the move tool, whatever is underneath the cursor is the part of the picture that you can move, and you can actually be quite selective about what you want to move. Just be careful, because if you miss the birds, then you can find yourself dragging the background around instead of the birds. But once you've got everything exactly the way you want it, you should end up with a really stunning looking silhouette picture.